And we're going to start off here with that whole situation with Alec Baldwin and, of course, the Rush shooting. This is something that's been in the news for a while. It's going to continue to be in the news. Of course, a tragic on-set situation. We've seen tragedies happen on set far too often, but where somehow, some way, a gun on the set of a movie ended up with a live round in it, and a couple people got injured. Somebody got shot and died. Horrible situation. Now, a little while ago, we talked about the fact that actual charges were brought against Alec Baldwin. And there were two charges in particular. One was involuntary manslaughter. That was one that carries a maximum sentence, I think, of 18 months. Now, the big one, though, was a relatively new law that they had in New Mexico, which carried a potential penalty of 5 years in prison. Now, the problem, of course, when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, was, as Alec Baldwin's lawyers pointed out, yeah, first of all, that law shouldn't stick anyway, but that law you're charging him with didn't even exist when the accidental shooting happened. You cannot charge, in the American legal system, you cannot charge somebody with a law that did not exist when that happened. In other words, the prosecution are morons. I mean, I have my legal experience was limited compared to these people, but even I could tell you, and I never practiced any law in America, even I could tell you, the prosecutor is a complete dimwit. You cannot charge somebody with a crime under a law that did not exist when that law was supposedly broken. At any rate, update to this story now. The prosecutors have had to drop the charges. Those charges are now dropped. It says, and we'll go over to my thing here, it says, when the charges were filed on January 31st, prosecutors sought to apply the statute that imposes harsher penalties for gun crimes under New Mexico law. If a gun is discharged in the course of a felony, defendants can face an extra 5 years in jail. But that law did not go into effect until May of 2022, 7 months after Hutchins, that's the cinematographer that lost her life, was killed. The gun enhancement that was in effect on October of 2021 required that the defendant show intent to intimidate or injure a person, which did not apply to the accidental shooting of Hutchins. So under the actual law that did exist, we went over this the other week, but you only can charge Alec Baldwin with that if you can prove that Alec Baldwin was intentionally trying to intimidate or harm the cinematographer, which nobody believes, right?
No.
So that's done. So that's not removed. Now, we also talked about how the president of the West Coast Trial Lawyers Association and a former federal prosecutor was pointing out that even the involuntary manslaughter charge is going to be very, very difficult to find him guilty on because there is actually no legal onus on Alec Baldwin, and that's it. So it's going to be interesting. Now, what else is interesting about this story with them dropping these charges, the president of that lawyer association suggested that the prosecutor was celebrity hunting Alec Baldwin by giving deals to people who were responsible for giving Alec Baldwin a loaded gun and all that kind of stuff, but trying to charge Alec Baldwin. Well, it turns out that legally this prosecutor shouldn't even be trying the case. This is the thing. Where is it? Oh, yeah. Baldwin is also seeking to disqualify Andrea Reed, that's the prosecutor, the special prosecutor on the case, because she is also a Republican member of the state of the House of Representatives. Baldwin's lawyers argue that she cannot serve as both prosecutor and a legislator at the same time under the separation of powers provision set out by the state constitution. Now, what this really does is it goes back to that thing that the president of the Law Association said, that it looks like this person is just celebrity hunting. She's also a politician.
Right.
She's a member of the state Senate who is also trying to prosecute this. This is clearly a situation of a politician who's trying to use their platform to go celebrity hunting. And listen, don't get me wrong. We know probably 1% of the actual information. We who are not involved in the case, we all probably have 1% of the information. And if this trial happens, which I'm starting to doubt it'll even go to trial, but if it does, and information and facts present themselves that Alec Baldwin was indeed actually, you know what, on the Tuesday before the shoot, Alec Baldwin brought a box of live rounds and left them laying around with the fake round. Listen, if information comes out that Alec Baldwin is actually responsible for the death of Hutchins, then there needs to be accountability. There has to be. And if we find all that out, we find out that all. I'm just saying right now, with 1% of the information we have, this is looking like a clown show. This whole trial thing is looking like a clown show to me. But at any rate, Rob, you read this new article. The charge that any first semester law student should have known that you could not charge Alec Baldwin with. They've had to drop those charges now. I don't know. What did you make of this story?
Well, I mean, I hope that what's happened here, the tragedy, Miss Hutchins lost her life. You know, she had children, she had a husband. It should never have happened, and it is incredibly unfortunate. And we should never lose sight of what happened and how, if anything, you have to be ever vigilant on a movie set because many things can go wrong. You know, light stands can fall over and hurt people. That's why it's imperative that safety first on any movie set, whether there's guns on those sets or not, you have to have safety protocols in place. And the thing that I don't like about this whole, like what you're pointing out, is they're turning this into some kind of a show trial.
Yeah.
When really what you're looking for is justice. There was clearly negligence here. There was clearly real, why there was live ammunition on a film set.
How the actual F did a live bullet get onto the set of a movie?
I mean,
that's
first
the
of all,
big question.
Anybody should be able to, anyone with any familiarity with firearms should be able to pick up a blank and pick up a real bullet and know the difference. I mean, instantaneously. And if you can't, you have no business handling firearms. And reading this and finding out, wow, a legislature is also the prosecutor. I mean, when you see something like this, it's like, look, man, recuse yourself. You should know better. But they didn't. And now they've gotten enough press and all that, and it turns into something. Now the onus or whatever is being moved away from what actually happened and the changes that need to be made and the real reason that this occurred. And it becomes something else, like so much in our country. And it's like what we really need to keep focused on is what happened here, the tragedy that happened, what was responsible, and let's make sure it never happens again.
We want to thank a sponsor of this video, MasterClass. MasterClass offers classes on a wide variety of topics, all taught by world-class instructors at the very top of their fields. Each class is broken out into individual video lessons, usually around 10 minutes long. And MasterClass is completely accessible on your phone, the web, smart TV, and available via audio mode to listen to classes on the go. They have over 2,500 video lessons from over 180 of today's most brilliant minds. They're all available anytime, anywhere on iOS, Android, desktop, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku. Now, obviously around here on the John Campea Show, we love our movies, so why not learn filmmaking from Jodie Foster, or maybe directing from Ron Howard himself, or the great Neil Gaiman doing his masterclass on the art of storytelling. And you guys have heard me talk about my favorite masterclass, Business Strategy and Leadership by Big Papa Iger himself, Bob Iger, the new and returning CEO of Disney. So guys, I highly recommend that you check it out. Get unlimited access to every class, and as a John Campea Show listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Just go to masterclass.com/Campea now. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off Masterclass. Christian, yeah, you haven't been in here, I don't think, when we've had to address the story. And it's, I mean, this is something that in and of itself, they're probably going to make a movie about someday. But anyway, you know about the case itself. You saw the article that was there. What's saying? What's your impressions of all this?
I mean, I kind of reiterate the same thing you guys are saying, that there needs to be an investigation as what really happened.
Yeah.
And if there was negligence and all that, they have to look for the, as you said, Rob, for the justice of this poor woman and her family and everything like that. That needs to happen because it shouldn't have happened. So there, like, that alone is absolutely should be the priority of what this is all about. And if Alec Baldwin, if they do the investigation, as you said, John, that he is responsible for involuntary manslaughter, then he should pay a penalty. There's no doubt about it. But he should be investigated fairly. That's the whole point of trials and everything, is supposed to be fairly. And it doesn't seem, at least from this one, and what we're not also bringing up is that, remember that Alec Baldwin is a pretty outright left-wing politician himself in his own right. You know, and he was doing an impression of the president for many, many years on Saturday Night Live, which probably didn't sit well with a lot of Republicans. So is it the only reason why that they're going after him? Of course not. They're probably, you know, this.
No, I don't believe that.
Of course not. But it is also that it could be said that this woman also wants to get the justice, and I think that that's something we should also say. She probably does, but I think that there is a conflict of interest when you're both politician, you know. So I think I think I'm not saying you should absolutely. I don't think that you should. That because I think you cry a foul if you put some Democrat or left wing that's trying the case, or excuse me, investigating the case instead of this woman. I think you should get a Republican, but maybe I don't know.
It just shouldn't be
She shouldn't be part.
Yeah, she shouldn't be part.
Yeah.
I was watching one legal analyst show podcast, and they were talking about this situation, and they gave this analogy. They said, imagine you're on a work floor, and they say, look, it's very important for safety. Take your garbage and throw them in that receptacle there. You have to make sure you throw your garbage in that receptacle to keep everything safe. So relying on the safety expert who told you to do that, you take that and you drop your banana peel in the receptacle. Unknown to you, the bottom of that receptacle has a crack in it. The banana peel falls out. Somebody walks by, slips, breaks their arm or something like that. Are you responsible for that person breaking their arm? You're the one who put the banana in the receptacle. Well, because you were told that's where it needed to be. And that's the one thing, again, only knowing 1% of the information, and I completely reserve the right to change my perspective on this as more information comes in.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying right now, when you have somebody on set who it is their responsibility,
Their only responsibility,
because you are not a firearms expert, to be that firearms expert, to clear the weapons, who then declared the gun a cold gun, which means it's a completely safe weapon. It's a cold gun. They handed it off to the assistant director. The assistant director took it to Alec Baldwin and declared this is a cold gun, telling Alec Baldwin this is a completely safe weapon. There is no danger. And then obviously there's a bullet in the gun. Alec Baldwin is not a weapons expert. I grew up with guns. I would personally know what to look for, but I'm going to venture probably 80% of the people in this room wouldn't know what to look for.
No, and on the flip side, though, as well, too, I mean, I agree with you, but I'm saying on the flip side, too, we've seen Alec Baldwin in the past, even on the street with paparazzi, lose his temper a little bit and lose his cool. That maybe he's like, I need the gun now. I need a gun. I don't care what it is. And maybe they didn't test it or anything.
According to the testimony, everything happened the way it was supposed to happen, right? The armorer declared it was cold gun, gave it to the assistant director. The assistant director took it over to Baldwin, declared it was a cold gun. All that is verified. That all happened. So, again, now the one thing that comes up every once in a while in this case that I still have to figure out what I think about it is that at the end of the day, Alec Baldwin is also one of the producers of this movie.
Right.
Yes.
That means it is your house. And if Ray decides to go cycle one day and, and I don't know, beats Jonathan over the head with a whiteboard or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, even though I'm not the one who did it and it wasn't my fault,
Saturday.
I am in charge of what happens in here. So there's some response again, but how far that goes, how does it fit within the New Mexico legal system? I don't know. It's just gonna be really interesting to keep our eyes on. Yeah, Ray.
That could be one of the worst examples I've ever heard in my life.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? Some idiot decided to, with obviously no understanding of the law, decided to bring a charge that was a law that wasn't even in existence when the incident happened. Anyway, what do you think this is going to turn into? Do you think there's a lot more information to come? I think there probably is, and we're all going to have to re-examine this later once we get more information. But whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.